Primus.
We are live.
We are live. And how's it going, Impactor?
I'm doing good. I really what I realized the transformation with Warpath. I already did that as a stop motion. Now realizing.
I remember that, and it pretty much looked identical to to what they created.
That's the goal with my stop motions. Just make them as accurate as I can. And that was one of my accurate ones, I think. Besides some of the other ones I did.
Cool. Well, today, or I should say this evening, tonight, depending where you are. Although I know for some, it may be lunchtime, dinner time. For some, it may be breakfast time, depending their time zone when they're watching this. Welcome to another Frenzy Freestyle Sunday Teletrend 1 segment with myself, Spin, and Impactor Productions from YouTube. And this evening, I'm going to kind of feature you in terms of stop motion and just getting right into asking you questions. And I guess the first question, creativity, like what inspires you to create the videos that you've created?
Well, for what I did back then, so back then I wanted to recreate things. I was very young when I first started watching stop motions, and well, I basically, like no other 6-year-old or 5-year-old, thought I was Toy Story pretty much. And so I wanted to learn how stop motion was made, but I, at the time and moment, didn't know what stop motion even was. So, with my camera on my tablet, I just record scenes and use my computer, make the audio noises and all that.
Cool.
But then, when it came to 2023 of June, I think it was the 7th, no, the 6th, my mom downloaded Stop Motion Studios from a suggestion, and at a friendlies, I ended up making my very first ever stop motion.
Nice.
And from there on out, it built up.
And that's a cool thing, because I think a lot of creative minds almost accidentally run into what becomes their thing. And I mean, that's so cool that that is now your thing. Sedenbach Arts hiding in the comments is saying was thinking of stuff to talk with Impactor without even realizing y'all doing this. So if you're gonna jump in. If you want to ask him questions in the comments, go right ahead. Same for anyone else. Any questions you have in the comments. As another question is, say a 5-minute scene, a 5-minute video. How long on average does that usually take you to make?
Well, if I had all the time in the world, theoretically, 2-3 days. But with all my schoolwork and stuff, it would take me close to a week or 3, basically. And well, for an instance, the 200 subscriber video I just did, I did the first half during a Sunday, which would have been the Sunday that I showed you guys the first half. And then when I got out of being sick, basically, and done doing schoolwork on Friday of, I think it was last month, basically, I got out of being sick and just finished the stop motion on Sunday. So that pretty much just quickly went on.
Okay. Now, do you have I mean, aside from other things that we've spoken about, so we won't reveal that publicly just yet in terms of production stuff. Are there other ideas that you've had in terms of stop motion that are, I guess, scenes of Transformers, or have you thought of things outside of Transformers that you wanted to try as well?
Are you saying like other animation things I could do with stop motion, not just Transformer toys themselves?
Yeah, like any because I guess
Marvel action figures.
yeah, and I mean that would be cool. Like, how many Marvel action figures do you have, or are there specific ones that you've collected?
I have unfortunately not been able to get any of them, even though I have a comic book shop that's jackpot full of them.
Oh, well, how come?
I wanted. Well, it's just I focus on my Transformers too much to the point that I don't really I forget about getting the action figures. But if I were to start collecting a series, it'd be X-Men.
Okay.
I grew up with the movie X-Men, so while, and so like movie X-Men, when we had the binge, the whatever it's called, the watch of X-Men '97, when we had that stream, you
Yes.
guys shot me into watching that entire series, and
Nice.
then my dad told me about the original X-Men, and I watched the entire series in 2 weeks.
Nice. Okay, cool. And but you know what, I can relate to you as well in terms of not collecting anything else because when I was younger and collecting Transformers, that's all I really bought was just Transformers. So I mean, in terms of any other toys that existed around those days, in a sense, I didn't really remember what else existed, and I also was never really into GI Joe. I think the only character I held on to for many years was Snake Eyes, because that like he was just a really cool character
Snake Eyes
overall.
is one of the coolest.
Yeah, but other than that, like if I went in the store, I straight to the Transformers section, disregard for anything else because that's just what I was into.
Yeah, for me, basically, past tense with me. If I had to get one Marvel action figure specifically, it'd be Gambit because he's one of my favorite characters from X-Men. Just because cards go boo.
He's a cool character. I think he's one of those underrated characters, like a few Transformers. Like he's significant enough and important in many roles, but he gets overlooked because the focus is always on, say, like Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm,
Yep.
Professor X, but never so much Gambit.
Though something tells me in X-Men '97 season 2 there is a high chance he's going to get a role since what I forget what his name is. What's the big purple dude in X-Men '97 in X-Men?
I see, purple, not Beast.
He has laser eyes again. Not
Uh,
it's not
uh,
Beast.
yeah, the name escapes me now.
He's the big head honcho villain.
Oh, now his name is overlooked me, and I know he's Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
That's
We
it.
get in the it was either the last episode or the episode where Gambit died, where Apocalypse is holding one of his cards, and there's a chance that Gambit's going to become the Horseman.
Okay, which you know what in the X-Men, what's the name of it? The X-Men series where essentially it was based on the X-Men being teenagers. Um, and I did watch through that series once, and I actually enjoyed it. I believe Gambit was one of the Horsemen in that series, maybe because Gambit was more focused as being like one of
Villain.
the villains.
Hello.
There is Anthony.
Sorry, I'm a little tardy. I was had a very long day. I was getting my car fixed.
Oh,
Didn't cost because I was up at my dad's and we were just like tackling it together.
cool.
Yeah. Which means I was like, we got to talk about Toy Fair. I'm like, I have nothing prepared for that, but I can find it as we go. I
Okay.
remember everything because I looked at it, but like,
All right, cool. Well, you know, we'll save a bit of that for Teletran too, which I know, or I mean, maybe if we can get a bit of into that a bit later in this stream, because I know it's going to be a bunch of things that we're going to try to cover in the Teletran 2 segment. But for this segment, we're focusing on Impactor and his stop animation.
it's incredible stop motion. Yeah.
Exactly.
One thing that is relevant to this, so you know how they're doing the Transformers 1 stop motions there, the 5-minute ones. They've continued to make them. The new toy line that made its debut at Toy Fair, Cyber World, they've said it's also gonna get a show that's also gonna be like 5-minute episodes.
Right.
So they
My-
haven't said it.
Sorry.
I was gonna say they haven't said it's stop motion, but that's what people are figuring it's probably gonna be because it's the same. It sounds like the same format as the Transformers 1.
What my dad says is he thought the toys were a little horrible, and I can agree with him. They are geared to children, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
the only one I'm saying that's worth it out of the bunch is Scorponok. He looks cool,
Yeah.
especially in the color scheme.
Yeah, they the centerpiece
So-
of the line is like a giant Scorponok, but kind of like the Titan, but it costs way less and is more focused on gimmicks. So
And in Grimlock, I have multiple questions. He looks like that little play school hero. He looks like a heavily retool of the Play School Hero Kids one like two-step change or Rescue Bots Dinosaur Optimus Prime, except with more
Yeah.
gimmicks.
I
And
will
what
say
is up
some.
with his arm being a minigun?
I,
Is that a War for
I,
Cybertron reference?
I will say some of the little guys look kind of interesting because they're going to be cheap and they're going to be like small, and they're doing a lot of weird designs on purpose. Like, what if Mirage changed into a jet? Here's Snarl, but he's in Junkion colors and sort of looks like both the Stegosaurus and the
Remember,
Beast Machine
Mirage was a
guy.
speedboat at one point.
Yeah. So the
Except he was a
tiny guys are
Decepticon.
kind of interesting, but I digress. That's more later. I gotta find some photos and be like, so we can like see what I can dig up as we go.
Cool. Sedenbach Arts has joined us.
Yeah.
Joined us sideways.
And well, I'll quickly show one of the guys I just completed.
Are you guys
This-
hearing Lars like the General Electric buzz too?
Yes.
Okay. That's
So- Of course, his arm. He's super loose, unfortunately. That's how I got him when I got the 2-pack. It took me a
Who is
very
that?
long time.
Yeah.
Master Dominus, the Wreck and Rule 2-pack with Leadfoot. He is his fossilizer friend that he came with, which is a mammoth. And unfortunately, he is super loose. I haven't had him together in a while because, well, let's just say he has this QC issue. That came off. And, well, I glued it back together, but there's a, like, small cut in the middle right here. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but, it snapped in half the piece that holds the antlers, and so I basically needed to glue it back together. That's why this guy here hasn't been around for a while. And now he's back.
I heard
something you can do with those weaponizers and fossilizers, if you're familiar with Agent Orange, is just take the smallest little scraps of paper. I mean, just the joints that are meant to, come apart
Or
when you
tape.
build. Like, use that to your advantage because he swears up and down by that, and I do too.
Does Agent Orange mean something else now? Because I was like the
It's
Vietnam thing.
guy who does a lot of quote unquote bot binging.
Oh, okay.
Cato Reviews. Like, I had followed him a little bit before Cato's Reviews did an interview with him, like, before I knew you guys. But if you look up his Cato's Reviews, and you look up bot, Bender, and then Orange as Orinj, it should pop up, and then obviously you can look him up directly, too.
Cool.
Agent
And
Orange.
James Coleman in the comments says, I will see you in the Rodimus Prime roundtable. And then see you then, James. It's
I'm going to be
been a
doing
while.
that one. That's going to be a juicy topic.
Cool.
I feel like I'm gonna need to look up some comic panels that I constantly bring up.
Yeah, how caught up are you, Anthony, by the way, on the comics?
Not very. I have. Okay.
I have all of
every
them, but I
issue
haven't
'cause
read
I have
the last 4 issues of Rivals, so...
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Like, I have a pull list and I go to the comic shop regularly, when I get the blokies. I don't have a new one today, I've been busy. But finding time to read them is a little bit difficult, and what'll usually happen is I'll build up a bunch and then just read a ton of them in one go and catch
Well, let's
up.
keep the
Also-
focus on Impactor, since this is supposed to be his
It's
special
okay.
day, so...
It's
Yeah.
okay. I'm perfectly fine with this. You guys can enjoy your chatting.
Well, no, I had suggested to spin, like, you with, like, me with still photography, you with animation, stop motion animation, so, which would require, it's sort of that weird, and that middle ground between still photography and videography. So I had suggested it, like, how many months ago was that spin? Like,
It was a few months ago. And
it was like last year, so this was something I had been pushing to have happen.
And it's interesting because I know when you had mentioned it, and it's almost from the angle that I presented it, and I know you kind of called me out on it, and it's the same thing I'd call out others. Just because people, take pictures of their transformers, their displays and everything, that doesn't necessarily make them a photographer. Whereas, like, it's the same thing for me, myself being a DJ. Just because you can, like, play
Wait, you're a
music.
DJ?
I'm a DJ. And,
Yes.
I thought that. What?
That explains a lot, doesn't it?
Yep, I've been a DJ since high school, kind of semi-retired, slowly got back into it. But as being an artist, I've always kind of said people who have artistic abilities are almost like mutants. Whereas, like, say one day, Spider-Man, Superman decides, I'm not saving people anymore. I'm just going to be a regular person. They're still Spider-Man and Superman. They didn't naturally, they
Not
don't
to
lose
mention
their
they will
natural
have the urge to
abilities.
help a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something I like to point out. If anybody notices, the videos that Toy Warp has put together when he does video versions of my written reviews, the music in those, every one of those has been a new track that Spin's made. So he's been
Yep.
making the music in the back.
Slowly re-inspired because it's been some years. Mr. Magnus hiding in the background. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, finally got my update in.
Got him
Nice.
out of a sling finally?
Oh no.
It looked like you were out of a sling for a moment.
No, clearly you've never been around somebody that's had shoulder surgery. That I'll be in this thing for 6 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
Gonna
takes
get
a
comfy and familiar.
long time for this to heal.
Just take it easy and don't do anything to make it a longer healing process.
Right.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and
Also,
the
sorry.
power flashed this week, so the
Right.
computer shut down, and then of course to start it back up, it was like, oh, your computer was shut down wrong, so it needs to do a full reset. And
Yeah.
I was like, come on.
No.
Yeah, that happened to me this morning. We just had like weird power surges. Our power went off, power came on. It did it like 3 times. It's weird. I thought somebody had not as in the transformers themselves. I'm talking like the power box transformer. Like seriously, I thought something happened because I've had similar experiences, and trust me, they are not fun.
And before we get too far ahead, I was going to say, I know what Spin said from his point of view was a point that I did bring up myself. But the point I was trying to make, whereas, let's say photography for, let's say, Impactor and Fear and Courage are a means to an end.
Right.
But they'll identify themselves not as a photographer, but a stop motion
see you now.
animator and reviewer.
Yeah.
But then you'll have me, and I'll identify myself as a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was trying to get at when I'm talking to you on the Discord was, when is it, what's that difference of what something is just, you see a skill as a skill in your toolbox, and when do you see it as your description of what you're doing, if that makes sense. Your job description, if you will.
No, that fully makes sense because I
Yep.
mean it's just like Toy Warp actually used to be a race car driver years ago, and I would
Wait,
say
what?
to people, if you showed up at my doorstep and gave me a race car, I'm just a guy driving a really fast car. It doesn't automatically make me a race car driver. I just own a really fast car at that point.
I'm
I don't-
discovering history here.
So
Oh,
We all have
what
we
is
all
the
have
question?
lore.
Is the question, when do you consider your hobby an employment?
Well, more
Well,
so
my
part of your
job's to
identity.
make money.
Huh?
Sooner or later, my stop motion stuff right here. Once I start getting up there, once summertime hits, that's when my big time is going to be able to just make a stop motion every single day. The goal is to keep posting to the point that I get monetized when I hit enough subscriber point.
Well, maybe a better way of putting it than job in the 8 to 5 type thing is, think of how, like, if you have a basketball player, Michael Jordan, probably before he was even in college ball and the NBA, for him, basketball is like, religion or like a lifestyle, like his main thing in life. I have a friend who's like a classical Indian dancer, and if you ask her what religion is for her, she'll literally tell you dance. So it could be that thing that identifies you as a person that's more than just a hobby. And there's things that it's a thing that, how to put this, you are paid with giving your time on this world value. And that's what you see that as your job in that way. That it's a thing that because you can't get more time. You can always get more money. So what you consider your main, as far as I'm concerned, F capitalism and all that, what you consider your main drive, your main uses of your time, your main passion for your time, that is your job. And you keep in mind the scientific definition of work is just, any application of energy to any activity and not just being at rest.
True. And I think to add to your point and even to Magnus's question, there are some places that will say, in order for a hobby to then turn into a career, you've had to have put in at least 1,000 hours into that hobby. At the same time, like for myself, I'd say personally, when I DJ'd a lot of events, I never looked at it as a job. Just I'm going to have fun doing what I love to do. So it's never, it was never work. As opposed to, you go to work and you're like, now I got to go to work today. Whereas it's like, I'm just having fun doing what I love to do. So it's no longer, your work, you love your work, or, it's just something fun that you're doing that you get paid for. It's not a job at that point, even though technically it is a job.
Yeah, I had said
Shoot,
to my
you guys
dad
get
in the
paid?
last year or two is that learning to make what I'm spending my time to do with to begin with, and not necessarily with the intention. So like a lot of times I'll watch like YouTube videos for research purposes on like historical subjects I want to write about in fiction and and then just pure sci-fi or fantasy media. But I could do that at home, or I can do that when I'm multitasking, donating plasma, or like I'm into world studies. I'm about learning about different cultures. That's also like I have a story where characters from different regions they have to go on the pilgrimage, and you have to befriend someone from East Saragated region to gain and befriend them and have them come into your traveling party in order to gain entrance to this newly found city that's unsarrogated.
True.
And one way you can learn about other cultures, what's one way I do that majorly, at least with me, a lot of Latin American dance, Indian dance, Japanese burlesque, etc., etc., etc. That's a big way of how there's all these different branches that eventually come back to the tree canopy of every composed from everything I do.
Now, Magnus also had a point just before we get to him. Cruisers Motorsports says the only difference between a pro and semi-pro race driver is pay grade.
This is true, Troy Ward.
Magnus, you were about to say something.
Um, uh, what you're describing here is just a profitable hobby.
True.
Yes, the fun stuff.
I mean, me personally, I love my job.
Hmm.
I don't wake up in the morning going, God dang it, I gotta go back in there again. Now, some days are bad days, but I love what I do.
Nice.
That's. I know a lot of people can't say that,
Right. That's true.
but I can say that. Construction is what I studied from the time I was a child. Watching my dad, I used to go out on job sites with him whenever they would build houses. I was the nail fetcher. Back before they had screw guns and everything else, and houses were actually hammered and nailed together. You got guys up in the rafters, and they run out of nails, and you've got a little guy spry runs down and fills up a 1-gallon bucket, throws it around his neck, and he climbs the pole up there and hands it to them, and they fill their pouches back up.
Hmm.
That was me from 7 years old up until I was ready to start swinging a hammer.
And you know what? And I know I don't want to get too far off on our topic and swing back around to Impactor. But I'm guessing in terms of, like our generation when we were kids to generation now, job sites, you wouldn't be allowed to have someone under the age of 16, bring you those tools and just help out and learn the trade. Whereas back then, you're old enough to walk, you can come help me at work, even if it's just carrying a bag of nails, something.
Unless your family owns the company.
Okay, so that still applies?
Yeah.
Cool.
If it's a family-owned business, as long as the kid is competent
Right.
and he's not doing anything structural, he can be a fetcher, he can be a go-getter.
Nice.
Hell, I was running the saw shop, when I was 10.
Good, but also that sounds very dangerous.
Yeah. I don't think I'd be doing that. If anything, I'd be most likely just being more preferred to being the go and give them the nails.
Hey, it's work. It's work, it's experience, and you learn that work ethic to put towards your hobbies, where it's like, I'm starting a project, let me see it from start to finish.
And you know what I got paid for that, Impactor? I got $20 a week. I got $10 on Friday night to go to the skating rink, and I got $10 on Saturday night to go to the skating rink.
Nice.
Lucky. I
Nice.
need to find another source of money besides lawn mowing and around my neighborhood. Though for skating, I still do roller skating, and I enjoy every It's once a Thursday that we go to the skating rink since I'm homeschooled. I go there and I go and roller skate. It's very fun, especially with me still doing old school skates.
But you know what?
We don't have you roll skate on the quads?
Yep.
Nice.
Oh, nice. I have to dig mine
Nice.
out of the closet or out of the attic.
I can't do blades, and I somehow am slightly faster
Oh,
than
no.
the blades.
I played roller hockey. Too bad Orlotti's not on here. 'Cause, we didn't have ice skating rink in my area. We played roller hockey, and it was played with a weighted ball.
Nice. Now I have a question for Impactor.
But we didn't have
Oh.
we didn't have inlines back then. I still skate on quads.
The quads were cool.
Our roller skating rink has the old quads, so I use the old quads since they're the ones that have more structural integrity and also
bring it
are
back
big enough for my feet.
No,
If Cruiser gets on here, he would love this. My speed skates I bought from Jeremy Mayfield, and they have his name scratched into the trucks, which is what your wheels rotate on. Jeremy Mayfield, for those who don't know, was a NASCAR driver. Jeremy Mayfield grew up here, where I'm from, and he
Nice.
dated my older sister's best friend, Christina, when he was a teenager.
Nice.
And Jeremy was the co-captain of our speed team, of our speed skaters.
Nice.
Nice. Also, before you guys ask me questions, my reveal of the day, thank you to my father, he gave me this as a gift. I got from Walmart Transformers Legacy United Slipstream.
I think I need to grab one of those for myself too as soon as I find
Oh,
one.
I like her in purple.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like her. I got her in box. She's a very good figure. I'm going to be buying the upgrade kit where it gives her an animated style chest piece because I really much prefer animated animated Slipstream over everything.
And doesn't it also the non-F or just something random off of eBay?
It's I don't know. I
know.
have to search it up again.
Oh, you
No.
can. Don't worry about it now.
Now, before I get another question
You're
for
subject of you.
for Impactor, and just before we get off that topic in terms of making money, I would say, in terms of making money to buy more Transformers, even though snow season's ending and it's going to be spring and summer, last year our lawnmower wasn't working. A bunch of kids were walking around in the area, one with a lawnmower, one with a rake, and one with I think it was a broom or something else, and we paid them to cut the grass and stuff, and they were just walking around the area, and I was making fun of it. I'm like, oh, here comes a gang of teenagers. They're gonna come cut your grass and stuff, but they did a perfect job. So if you got a lawnmower or a rake, a broom to shovel it up after, and there's your summer income right there.
Yes, but unfortunately, so with my area, yes, it's high game, elderly. But a lot of people are also unfortunately dying or moving out, basically. A bunch of stuff is happening in my neighborhood. And
But
so...
a lot of elderly people need their grass cut.
Right? They can't do it.
Mhm.
But with me, the borough will usually... There's a lot of houses around my place, around my area, that have the borough do it. And
Got it. Okay.
unfortunately, not all the... I know most of them, basically. And, well, if anything, they trust me more for snow shoveling because apparently my name has... Well, me as a person has gone out there. Like, a bunch of neighbors know me for snow shoveling,
Okay.
which I did not personally know at all.
Now get out there and get your name for cutting grass.
Mm-hmm. And
The
it-
The only thing
the
I'm going to be
best
cutting
advice-
grass with the lawnmower.
Impactor, the best advice I was ever given was learn every skill you can.
mhm.
Yes.
But find 3 or 4 of them
Yep.
and be the best at them.
Yep.
Well, I have two:
Be the
snow
person.
shoveling and stop motion.
Be the person that stop motion's not paying the bills.
Fair point.
That is a skill, but right now that's a hobby. I'm talking about to put the money in pocket. So you've got the snow shoveling figured out. Now figure out what it is that makes the people want to use these other grass cutters. Find out what they're paying for it and do it for $10 cheaper.
Hmm. And that's just summer. Once summer starts to pass through,
Dwindle.
fall comes around. People need their leaves raked.
Yep, that's the thing that me and my friends are all gonna do. So I have two of my friends named Dante and Jamar. We are full on. We are a full on trio. We do everything for the most part together whenever I can hang out with them. And well, raking is one of the things that they said they're gonna be doing. And they invited me to join them in raking for next year. So I might be doing that with them.
Do it.
Something
Set him
about
as a
breaking
question
again.
for you. And he says, Impactor, what is the oldest and or limited options for animation transformers you used in animations, and how did you work around the limits of said figures?
Well,
Can you tell on the former art history and art education majors?
There you go.
uh,
You're like, oh God, no, no.
I don't know any of
I don't
that.
want to be in school on Sunday night. No.
But so if I had to go with figure like Transformers limitations with all my characters, with me, I pretty much just used who I own basically. So if I didn't have Mirage, I'd use Blur. If I didn't have Trailbreaker, I'd use Hoist. I used basically what I had and animated them like how they were supposed to basically. That's why I used for a very, very, very long time my Transformers Beast Hunters Optimus Prime. It was the closest thing that I had to G1 looking Optimus. And then I got Dark of the Moon Optimus, which replaced him for a while. And then, well, Earthrise Optimus came in last year, thanks to my mom. And then Christmas and summertime gave me 86 Optimus, which is, well, my current Optimus.
I think at some point you're gonna have to make like a little comedy sketch of just like a bunch of Optimuses together.
Optimize.
Yeah,
Optimize.
I don't have that many Optimuses. I have a lot. I think I have almost all the Play School Hero Optimuses in general. I was huge into Rescue Bots and all those other shows for a very long time. But I have all those, and then I have a select amount of Optimuses, pretty much. My very first official Optimus, as I said, was the Beast Hunters Optimus. I grew up with that Toys My Optimus for a while. And then, as I said, I got Dark of the Moon Optimus. After I got Dark of the Moon Optimus, I then got Earthrise, and now the new one, the A6 one. Like, I didn't have an Optimus for a while, and I just used what I had.
Cool.
And personally, I enjoyed it.
So, Senator, did you have another question?
So the follow up to that is just to specify more what I meant is like, let's say, like I know Spin has seen some photos of mine of like the mix and match. They're like the TMT equivalents of like the weaponizers and the fossilizers,
Mhm.
and they only have head, shoulder, hip joint. So they're only 5 points of articulation, which also line up with their attachment points for exchanging parts. Whereas I also have the Mutant Mayhem because the mix and match are from the recent cartoon where the mix and match are they have the tree points to the hip that has the full range. I mean the shoulder that has the full range, the elbow and the wrist, and then the same equivalent on the legs. So that's what I meant by limited
Limited articulation for the figure.
articulation,
Mm.
because that would be the main thing that would articulate limit your range of motion and
Yes.
animation. That's what I meant.
Well, for
And I know you said
that,
you had
sorry.
what was it, rescue bots. So I know that toy
Yeah.
line had fairly limited. So that might be a good example for you to think of if you ever considered using those, or just I'm sure just playing with them, even if it was before you did stop animation. When you're like maybe imagining your own little story with them while playing with them, you might think, oh, I wish I could have done this with them, or how would you convey? Actually, I know a good example. You remember how within the not too long ago you were complaining about like not being sure if you could convey like Devastator would be too big for your camera.
Yes.
So what's up? So and Fear and Courage could point to this example I'm going to bring up. Kraid in Super Metroid and Metroid Zero
Filling the
Mission.
screen.
You never see it, but you don't see him the full time. They just own the fact that he can't fit on the screen the whole time,
Toy Wolf, I
and
am
that's
going
something you
to.
can do. And that's
Toy Wolf,
something
I
you
am
can
going
do
to
is
send an
leaning
army of
into your
rectors to come
limitation.
and
That would be an
destroy your
example of
cliff
leaning
jumper.
into your limitations. And then, and I've seen you do this with like when you have like from the interior of that mock up of cliff jumpers interior,
Yep.
where it's essentially you keep the same framing of the shot, so the shot framing is still, but
Hmm.
then there's elements within that frame, that still framing,
The
that are
trees.
still moving around, like the indication of the road motion, or if there's someone that passes by cliff jumper or is coming towards him from the distance. But like something I was gonna say, I had done like with big like these big like was the Mechazoids from Tales of TMT, where they're so unwieldy without having like some wiring to, so like you can use panning, like so you can set up a diorama. If you ever seen like Berserk '97
Yeah, I've seen
or
a bunch of
Gundam Wing,
dioramas.
but you can set up, but use the camera work of what you show at any given time in the panning shot to give the implication of movement when you don't have the function of joints articulation for the figure.
Mhm.
That's what a workaround that I had done with my own stuff.
With my figures, what I tried with what I did back then, what I do is I would just use the figure to my best of my abilities, and usually try and cut out stuff. So, for an instance, transformations. Basically, with my transformation tests for a bunch of my characters, I will cut out basically. So I'll have the speed, or I'll try and morph it in with the transformation. You know what? This is actually a good one to mention the stop motion process and what I did for it. I'm
You're gonna
disconnecting.
get on the subject of keyframes of animation and or something like that, I'm guessing, or
Please repeat that. I could not hear you. My headphones
you know
disconnected.
how like if you look at like old 8-bit games or older animations, you have the what they would
Hmm.
make sure they had very good keyframes of animation if
Yep.
they had limited range of movement or limited amount of frames. Because I would say it seems like from what I've seen your stuff, especially with a lot of your like animation tests, like I think the is it the Green Prime Cup,
Yep. Sergeant Cup.
and it seems like you understand that concept. Maybe you just didn't know there was a term for it.
I did not know there was a term for it.
But yeah, key frames of animation. That seems to be something you intuitively, and just with your intuition, grasps without knowing there was a term for it.
With Smokescreen here being a very hard one to. Well, I mean, not for stop motion, but he's one to have a hard one for transformation. So right here, with each frame, I just skimp over half of the transformation and make it quicker.
So, are you familiar with how film works? And how the human eye essentially kind of fills in the
Yep.
blank.
Yep.
If
That's
your
the.
own eye tricks you, and the film making stuff seem more smooth than it actually
Mhm.
is, and how sometimes having more frames can actually make stuff look worse because
Yep.
it's there's so much that it just makes stuff seem slower than you really want it to be.
Yep.
Like I
And well,
always think
just for
about whenever you do a gun mode
See,
Megatron
when you showed it just
transformation.
now, it looks so much better than when you were just frame by frame. It looks so much
Yeah.
fluid when you're doing it at full your normal speed.
1 second, just wait for that.
I'm always really impressed whenever you do a Megatron into gun mode transformation because we never notice the switch because between the toy
Oh.
and the model because our brain fills it in.
Or stream, actually. This is going to be something that's going to be my next big stop motion. It's been pinned me. This is going to be a good one because this is going to be. I think you all can tell by the cover, just with seeing a shuttle. That's all I was able to get done because I had to eat dinner, but I'm going to redo the shuttle attack. Except I'll be using transformers of my own. I'm going to, as basically like what Stenbach and you guys said, I'm going to use what figures I would have had a very long time ago, basically. So I'm going to take my old figures and use them in a stop motion.
Interesting.
So I'll take my Gamer Edition Ratchet, Prowl here, my Bumblebee movie Brawn that I need to replace, and I need to replace that thing. His arms are loose, and I mean too loose to the point that tape or paper is not going to work.
Ooh, that's rough. And if we're
That's
understanding you correctly, are you saying that there's some of these figures you're intentionally revisiting?
Yep, I'm
Even though you have
revisiting
newer
them to see if
ones?
I can do them with animation.
Yeah, with the knowledge you have now that
Yep.
you didn't have then?
Because some of my old videos, before I even had like my universe prowler, this prowler right here, basically my new one, which I really love. I had this Authentics, the one that Mr. Magnus has, the ones that he'll give the children when they come over to his place, and I have that prowl basically, that style of universe, and
Oh, the one that had the flipped out shoulder guns
yeah, I
from the
have that one.
2010s?
Yeah, I just got that one, but I have the classics one. So well, not classics, or I forget where
Yeah,
it's.
it's one of those chug figures.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
chug. Yeah,
classics,
that's the
universe,
one that I had.
generations. One of those
Universe
Oh.
2.0.
ambiguous 2000 something figures.
I have a feeling Mr. Magnus is.
Yeah,
got
that's
that
the one
one?
I was referring to. That's the one I had.
There we go.
And which with mine, I did a personal paint job on it to make it G1 style. I hated the blue on mine when I had it, so I painted it up black and removed a bunch of the old logos, trying to just make it look a little more G1. And speaking of stop motion, since we're running low on time, I'm just going to get through some of the stop motions I made.
Cool.
So... Wait one sec.
Don't see anything. It's glared.
There we go.
Took the light away. There you go.
So that's Ratchet's transformation.
So you're just like skipping steps in the transformation to make it go faster?
Yeah, it's very hard for Ratchet to do a transformation in general, and then I did Cliff Jumper, which would be one of my very favorites with what I actually made him do.
Nope, glare again. There you go.
Ah, there it goes.
Yeah, you made him jump. So how did you do that exactly?
It's called Thank You, Mr. Magnus, for giving me the flight stands.
See, I didn't even see the flight
yeah.
stand. No, I wasn't
So
looking
look,
for it, but
This is the empty picture right here. There is no Cliff
Yeah.
Jumper. I copy and pasted that picture, basically, to each frame. And with each frame, so when he jumps up, I use the stand itself with Cliff Jumper, and
you
I
edited
erase
it
it
out?
out.
Oh, see, maybe I'd notice if it was in like high resolution, but at least from here, I can't tell. I didn't read it as like a edit at all, like a copy paste or anything. I just read it as him in the environment.
Yep, that was one of the ones I was impressed with. And while all those effects, like the flying and jumping effects, are going to be very visited this summer for all the 86 scenes I'll be visiting. And while
Alright.
the final stop motion...
No, I think Sedum has a question before you get to the
So-
final one.
I'm not sure you already realized this. So, would you say it's effectively kind of like what they do with 2D animation, where the backgrounds would be their own saying, and then the character animations would be overlapped on top of the backgrounds to get a composite shot?
Mhm.
Is that a good way to put it for maybe people who don't know stop animation but are familiar with 2D animation?
I'm not familiar with 2D animation.
Well, are you familiar with how it's done? It effectively, kind of the same thing you did with your example there. You had your background,
Mm-hmm.
and you shoot the back. You have your background, made separately, and then you did your, character animation, and you overlaid that with the background.
Now I see what you're...
And you do the same thing with 2D animation. And even with like 3D animation, now granted 3D animations you can have both the background with the 3D rigging of the backgrounds and also the characters. Then it's like having two animations of moving animations rather than a moving layer and a non-moving layer, like what you did with your stop animation or what I'm saying with 2D. So that might be something to aim for, seeing if you can manage to do background. Well, you kind of already do with the the indications of road movement.
Yeah, I learned that from a while back. You know what? There's another. Oh goodness, this is gonna be crazy one today.
That's what I went to school for, was 3D graphic animation,
Oh, nice.
graphic design. Now, granted, this was way back in 2001. So
Oh, what was that when you started or graduated?
that's when I graduated in, I think it was 2002 is when I graduated.
From college, not high school?
Well, no, that was out. I was an old man when I went to college at
Oh,
27.
okay.
Right?
Yeah, I graduated high school in 01.
Pre-Elias, anyway.
I
This
was
is like 10 years before him almost.
2011.
Yep. And I went to college for that
2006.
just because I didn't want to get left behind in the art field, right?
Mhm.
I'm an
Getting
artist.
out of this conversation spin.
Starving artist, if you will. But I ended up using my computer knowledge to work for the state and do
Mhm.
fixing their computers and things like that. I was a contractor for them here in Pennsylvania.
Cool.
But yeah, my background, like I did Adobe Animation Studios and stuff with everything that they did, Photoshop, Illustrator, and what is it? There was another one, it's like Works or something like that. I forget.
And this man here has given me help on understanding of the effects stuff, because the first shuttle attack stop motion, all the effects I got ideas from my dad when I started doing, because when I first got the Stop Motion Studios Pro, I got all the effects basically. I could draw, I could edit basically finally. And
Nice.
so my dad taught me basically a bunch of ways to do effects, and
Just some simple stuff.
basically I learned.
My handiwork is seen, well, has been seen on television, though it wasn't mine. They stole my work.
Oh no.
I went as an extern and worked for a company that did the Blue Cross Blue Shield. You remember the commercials that had the little blue guy in it, where he would just sort of walk out there? Yeah, it was a very simple animation, but this was back in the very beginnings of 3D graphic design. So, like, they took that and they turned it into a commercial for Blue Cross and Blue Shield. But they did not hire me. They took my work, but didn't hire me.
Also,
Yeah.
for the heads up, Windblade's weapons are confusing.
Yeah.
I
no set place to go.
Oh, Slipstream, you mean?
I question it.
I thought that's who it was too.
Yeah, they have
It's a reuse
some
more.
weapon upgrades for her, so you can position them more like
Yeah,
a
that's why
traditional seeker.
that's why I'm getting the upgrade kit, because the upgrade kit comes with new null rays, and the null rays can connect to the port under here.
I don't know why they didn't just give her a normal.
Well, I'm curious, since your dad had popped up, so I know, like, for me, I can relate to you two, because I know even my dad, he was always doing photography when I was growing up. Like, and we went to, like, up and down the East Coast from Florida to New York, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Arizona, and all the West Coast. And, I mean, he had his job as, like, a civil mechanical engineer, so for him, his plan was, keep that for fun. Maybe when he gets older, like now since he's been retired since like 2017, he's more open to the idea just to have some extra fun money, but it's not like, a serious thing for him. But then for me, I mean, I'm sort of like his child, but I've gotten it where I actually had done it as my bread and butter, like money-wise to pay my bills.
Man.
So it seems like you two, kind of like me and my dad, kind of had that going that a few more steps than your predecessor did in your family lineage.
I even got to do photography too. I was a professional photographer for 5 years. Actually, I used to do youth sports photography.
And for a funny fact, actually, the youth sports photography the building itself is next to the comic book shop.
It is
Nice.
absolutely.
And that makes sense now. So with the photography, that would help Impactor with the stop motion, and then with your background with like graphic design, just with some of the way he incorporates, the special effects like the laser blast and whatnot,
Oh yeah.
and being able to convey something with very,
I have
limited
a lot of
details, like you would a
information
logo.
to impart to him when he's ready to accept it, but he's not ready. When I see him working on things and he's like trying to tweak something, I sort of try and poke a little advice in here and there.
And I have taken some of it.
Yes, you have actually.
So don't say I didn't.
No.
Hard.
Now before
It's hard to take that advice from the father. It's hard.
I need to show you guys these 2 stop motions so we can get this done and ask me like the final 5 or whatever questions.
Cool. Well, there's one more question from RJ Eagle. Yeah, he says, keep up the good work on the stop animation. Are there other animators on YouTube that you draw inspiration from? Not sure if you mentioned earlier.
We did not mention this earlier. So, in pretext, basically, so this was my beginning stages of stop motion studios, basically. A YouTuber by the name of Wolfman Productions, the YouTuber that I first started watching for stop motion that I didn't know at first. His stop motions didn't involve that much stop motioning. They did transform and they did a bunch of stuff, but like it was like there were a bunch of movements cut out from like a bunch of his stop motions. But that's what I first followed, and then I started watching other YouTuber tutorials like for stop motion. And while the YouTube tips, basically stop motion transformer tips, are very very good. Chase Studios and Brick Formation Studios both did videos on how to do walking animations and make your transformers look more live motion, you could say. So they're like moving, basically. It looks more humanoid if they're moving, basically. That's 2 of the videos that I watched that I've been trying to take after.
Cool. Now we got like 5 minutes left, so let's jump into some more of your animation.
So this is going to be a redo. This is what I was able to do at church, actually, back on yesterday. I got to sleep over at my church. It was very fun.
It's always funny how you're very efficient at banging these out. So I was in some random place doing other stuff, and then I just put one of these together. No big deal.
That's all I was able to get done before I had to be yelled at to leave.
Something very charming about just filming these in like mundane locations, like with rugs and water bottles. It's like a kid playing with toys. It's like this is what goes on in their imagination.
I still do that slightly whenever nobody's
exactly.
here. And
It
I
captures
don't
that
know if
vibe.
I showed you guys this one yet. This is Rise of the Beasts. So this is one of the stop motions I did. Be aware there's going to be an editing problem that I have to fix for effects. Wait a second, now I realize I showed this last stream.
You're too young to be doing that.
Well, hey, what can I say? I'm going
Oldness
everywhere.
is rubbing off on you.
Oh, wait a second. There are 2 things I did not show. So this is Skylinks' transformation test.
Oh, the Combiner Wars one.
Wow.
Now you gotta
that's very smooth.
follow that up with the IDW 2.0 scene where he like, is it Skywarp that he bit into in half?
Yeah.
Bending cords. That was like my favorite scene from that whole run. Was this Skylink's just swooping in and just going biting into Skywarp like he's a Slim Jim.
And
And for all the
final one.
Skywarp fans, don't worry, he got better.
Okay.
Wait.
Oh, strong, huh?
I did this right before I left to head over to Turkey Hill. Like, I can do these in 5 minutes.
Jeez.
Like, it's unbelievable.
How you're the one saying it like that. We're supposed to be telling you it's unbelievable.
Lord, I don't know how I can do it.
It's your natural ability. Everyone has a natural ability at something.
I will ask though, is with a new figure, will it be take you a little bit longer than it would with figures you're already familiar with to do stuff on the spot?
Nope. Because,
Well, I guess since the articulation's so universal nowadays.
it's the like there's this YouTuber whenever he does reviews, it has the normal articulation of a normal transformer, basically the whatever 5 points of articulation, basically whatever it's called. But with Slipstream here, Hopefully I can get something. Her joints are super stiff, so there is a good chance I can get her into some poses, though I prefer my figures a little loose. I mean, this is as loose as I'll let, basically, for a Transformer. If it's any looser, I'll just put tape on the ball joints. And I don't know how I do it, but I transform figures without using the instruction. I have not broken a figure doing this, surprisingly. And so, basically, I figured out how to transform Slipstream like 10 minutes after I just got her. Without using video.
Hey, Bill, did you actually get your shoulder surgery from Impactor, and he put tape in you, and not some more scientific?
Well, that's basically what they did. They
Oh God!
couldn't reattach.
I made
the
that joking, Jess. I wasn't expecting that's
well,
damn. That went
they
dark.
could not reattach the tendon, so they actually put a piece of cadaver flesh in between the bones, and my body will build a scar tissue over the top of it, and it'll make a natural cushion between the bones. That's why I still have to go through all this physical therapy.
Also, for one other
something
mention,
very metal about that.
Yeah,
they put dead body tissue inside me.
That's right. That's right. They told me that if I start getting a craving for live flesh, they would call it immediately.
That one, next, if in the next year we see Bill come on, he's like drooling from his mouth, and he's like, "Brains,
you got brain."
He's becoming a Terracon. But before we leave, a final other mention. So the YouTuber That Toy Guy did a review of Slipstream, actually. And, well, right before
she was on the show once.
I missed it.
This was
Don't feel bad. I was sick. I
You
wanted
can
to be
it.
on when he was on, but I was too sick to get on. I was in the comments though.
But,
well, all our episodes are uploaded on YouTube, so you can find them if you go
I
back
have
far
to
enough.
find it. But Slipstream. So you may have mentioned when he got the 4-pack with Tarn, Cliffjumper, Tarantulas, and all of them. The sword that Tarn came with, I have that 4-pack already, and he said he's gonna give that sword to Slipstream when she came out, and she's now out. The blade really, really works with Slipstream here, and I mean it does work with her.
Nice. Well, we're gonna end this part of the stream as we get ready for the Teletran 2 segment. So, Impactor, I thank you for you being the focus of this evening's stream and just all your amazing work. And for everyone, we'll like and subscribe to Impactor's channels. We'll like and subscribe to our channel. And as we say at the end of each
Everybody
stream,
needs to subscribe to this channel first and then check out my channel later.
there you go. Till all are one.
Till all are one, and I have 232 subscribers now.
All right.
Yeah,
We now return you to the Children of Primus.